I was one day away from giving birth when my husband kissed me goodbye, grabbed his suitcase, and left for the airport. At first, I thought he was joking. Then I watched his car disappear down the street while I stood in the doorway holding my swollen belly and trying not to cry. 24 hours later, I was in labor. And my husband was on a beach 3,000 miles away with his parents. My name is Sarah, and for a long time, I convinced myself that my husband wasn't selfish. I told myself he was just caught between two worlds. The family he came from and the family we were building. Looking back, I should have stopped making excuses much sooner. I met Jason when I was 28. He was funny, ambitious, and incredibly charming. The kind of man who could make an entire room laugh. The kind of man who remembered small details. The kind of man who made you feel special. For the first 2 years, everything felt perfect. Then I met his parents. And suddenly things started making sense. His mother, Linda, controlled everything. What restaurant the family ate at. What holidays looked like. What opinions were acceptable. Even what Jason wore sometimes. At first, I found it strange. Later, I realized it was much worse. Jason wasn't simply close to his parents. He was emotionally dependent on them. Whenever there was a disagreement, Linda somehow became involved. Whenever Jason and I made plans, Linda had input. Whenever I expressed frustration, Jason would say the same thing. She's just trying to help. That sentence became the soundtrack of our marriage. When we got engaged, Linda tried to change our wedding venue. When we bought our house, she demanded a key. When I became pregnant, she started acting as if the baby belonged to her. Still, I tried. I wanted peace. I wanted my child to grow up in a happy family. So I swallowed my pride more times than I can count. Then came my final month of pregnancy. I was exhausted. Everything hurt. Sleeping was difficult. Walking was difficult. Breathing felt difficult. The doctor told us the baby could arrive at any time. Don't travel, she warned. Then she looked at Jason. And stay available. He nodded. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Those words would haunt me later. A week before my due date, Linda called. I could hear her voice through Jason's phone. She sounded excited. Apparently, she wanted the entire family to take a last-minute vacation. A luxury resort in Florida. 5 days. All expenses paid. I laughed when Jason mentioned it. Obviously you're not going. He didn't laugh. Instead, he looked uncomfortable. And suddenly I felt nervous. Jason? He avoided eye contact. My parents already booked everything. I stared at him. So? They don't want to lose the reservation. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Our baby is due next week. It'll only be a few days. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. For the next 3 days, we argued constantly. I begged him to stay. Not because I wanted control. Because I was terrified. This was our first child. Anything could happen. The doctor literally said the baby could arrive at any moment. But Linda kept calling. Kept pressuring. Kept insisting. Eventually Jason sat me down. I need you to be understanding. Understanding. That word made me sick. I am about to give birth. I know. Then why are we even having this conversation? His silence told me everything. He had already made his choice. The next morning, he packed a suitcase. I watched from the bedroom doorway. Part of me kept hoping he would stop. That he would realize how insane this was. Instead, he zipped the bag closed. Walked over. Kissed my forehead. And left. I stood there crying after the door shut. Not because he was taking a vacation. Because in that moment, I realized I wasn't his priority. His parents were. And maybe they always had been. 12 hours later, my contractions started. At first, I convinced myself they were false labor. Then they became stronger and closer together. By midnight, I was in the hospital. Alone. I called Jason. No answer. I called again. Nothing. Again. Straight to voicemail. Panic started setting in. Finally, nearly 2 hours later, he texted. Sorry. At dinner. What's up? What's up? I looked down at the message through tears. I was literally in labor. I called immediately. This time he answered. Hey. Jason. The pain hit so hard I couldn't finish my sentence. His voice changed instantly. Wait, are you in labor? I started crying. Yes. Silence. Then I heard voices in the background. His parents. The next words out of Linda's mouth changed everything. I heard her clearly. Tell her first babies take forever. I froze. Jason didn't correct her. Didn't defend me. Didn't tell her to be quiet. Nothing. That hurt more than labor. Hours later, our daughter arrived. Beautiful. Healthy. Perfect. And Jason wasn't there. The empty chair beside my hospital bed said everything. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. Then came twist number 1. 2 days after the birth, Jason finally arrived. But he wasn't alone. Linda came too. The moment they walked into the room, I expected apologies. Regret. Remorse. Instead, Linda marched straight toward the baby. Oh, there's my girl. My girl. Not your daughter. Not your granddaughter. My girl. Something inside me snapped. When she reached for the baby, I stepped back. The room became silent. Linda looked shocked. What are you doing? I stared at her. No. What? You don't get to play loving grandmother after encouraging your son to miss the birth. Jason looked stunned. Linda immediately started crying. Real tears or manipulation, I honestly don't know. But for the first time, I didn't care. Then came twist number 2. A week later, while Jason was showering, his tablet lit up with a message. I wasn't snooping. The notification simply appeared. What I saw made my stomach drop. It was from Linda. The message read, Don't tell Sarah we knew the doctor warned against traveling. My hand started shaking. Because Jason had told me something very different. He claimed he informed his parents about the doctor's warning. Apparently, that wasn't true. I opened the message thread. And everything unraveled. Months of conversations. Private discussions. Complaints about me. Complaints about boundaries. Complaints about the baby. Then I found the worst message. The one that broke my heart. It was from Jason. If I stay home every time Sarah gets emotional, Mom will never forgive me. I sat there staring at the screen. Over and over. Not because I was emotional. Because I was pregnant. Because I was carrying his child. Because I was about to give birth. And somehow he still viewed it as a conflict between me and his mother. Not a responsibility. Not a priority. A conflict. That night I couldn't sleep. For the first time, I stopped wondering how to save my marriage. And started wondering whether it deserved saving. The climax came 3 weeks later. Jason's family organized a welcome gathering for the baby. Almost 30 people attended. Everyone passed our daughter around. Everyone smiled. Everyone acted as though nothing unusual had happened. Then Linda decided to make a speech. She stood up holding a glass. I want to thank Jason for being such a wonderful son and father. The room applauded. I almost laughed. Father? He missed the birth. Then Linda continued. He sacrificed his vacation to rush home. That was the moment. The lie. The rewriting of history. The thing I could no longer tolerate. I stood up. The room became quiet. Then I pulled out my phone. "What are you doing?" Jason whispered. I looked directly at Linda. "Telling the truth." I read the messages out loud. Every single one. The doctor's warning. The vacation plans. The texts. The pressure. The manipulation. The conversations. Everything. The room fell silent. People looked horrified. Linda's face lost all color. Jason looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Then I asked one question. One simple question. If your daughter was one day away from giving birth, would you tell her husband to get on a plane? Nobody answered. Because everyone already knew the answer. No. Of course not. For the first time, Linda had no defense. No excuse. No manipulation. Nothing. The karma came naturally. Family members stopped taking her side. People stopped viewing her as the victim. Even Jason's father privately admitted she had crossed a line. But the biggest consequence belonged to Jason. Because trust doesn't break all at once. It breaks piece by piece. And he had shattered mine. Over the following year, he worked harder than I've ever seen. Therapy. Counseling. Boundaries. Real boundaries. Not promises. Actions. For a long time, I wasn't sure it would matter. Some wounds heal slowly. Some never fully disappear. But one evening, nearly 18 months later, I watched him sitting on the floor reading stories to our daughter. She laughed. He laughed. And for the first time, I saw something different. Not a son trying to please his mother. A father trying to become better. Today, our marriage survived. Barely. But it survived because Jason finally understood something. The family you create must come before the family you came from. And if you force your spouse to face the most important moment of their life alone, they may forgive you someday. But they will never forget it. As for Linda? She still complains occasionally. Still pushes boundaries. Still tries. The difference is that nobody listens anymore. Because the day her son left his pregnant wife behind to travel with his parents, everyone learned exactly who mattered most to her. And it wasn't family. It was control.